So.
Why are you filming this?
It's a drug deal. Come on. It's my guy right
here.
There you go. Thank you. Oh, you got the Miami shades on?
Yeah. Got you.
Thank you.
This internship's really like.
It's not an
amazing.
internship. It's a free employee.
Yeah, it's an internship.
No, there's
college
no
credits.
No, there's no job. There's no job offer after. There's no college.
Something, right? Something huge.
Oh, it's just
Wrong
free
your
work.
team.
Huh?
No, actually, I would totally hire you.
Not interested.
I would hire you, but only if Steve says it's okay.
I don't think he'll approve.
He won't.
Goodbye.
See you, bro.
Later, dude. Thanks.
This is Jacob.
What's going on, man? Jacob, nice to meet you.
Man?
How are you?
Good to meet
Do a
you
little
too.
vlog, so. You don't do any vlog stuff on Fall Podcast?
Not really. Well, I did for my book release.
What's the name of the book?
Own the Day, Own Your Life.
Do you have one book?
One book. I'm writing another one now. Taller than I thought you were
You
going
guys
to
look yeah, holy shit.
A lot of people say that.
You look the same height. I think he's a little taller, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking me up right
What
now.
the hell?
Not normal. It's not normal for me.
I can't crush a watermelon with my bare hands. Yeah.
Okay, we're live. So listen, I don't really have like an official intro or anything like that. And everyone watching is going to be like, where the fuck are you right now? But I have a very, very special guest. And I'm actually a fan. I was a little nervous before I got here. He could attest to that. I was like, damn, like I've never actually been nervous to get on a podcast with someone. And I think you're the first person I was like a little bit
Fuck
like,
yeah, I'm fucking.
damn it.
I'm proud of that. I'll take it.
but,
There's no reason though. There's absolutely no reason.
No, for sure,
But
for sure. Aubrey Marcus, everyone. And I really appreciate you. This setup is actually his. Like this whole setup is his. So again, you guys are like, where are you? He booked this venue clearly. Obviously he's staying here. But welcome back to another episode of Raw Talk. Very special guest, Aubrey Marcus. And the first thing I kind of want to bring up is like, what is it that you do specifically for my audience who doesn't know you? I know that you are the founder of On It. Mm-hmm. Obviously I know you write a book. You just told me about it right now. Mm-hmm. You are very, very, I guess I would consider it spiritual or connected to yourself, and it seems to be like others. But what is it like? What would you say that you do most of your time besides podcasting? I know this is like I think this is the main thing you do, but like I'm really curious about your journey because the On It thing to me when I found out about it, I was like, I'm directly like in that similar industry.
Sure.
Like the fitness space, the supplement space. I think you do also sell workout equipment. Mm-hmm. I know it because we bought those the kettlebells.
Kettlebells, yeah.
Kettlebells.
Oh yeah, the primal bells.
But like, how did you get started in all this?
I think ultimately I just like to solve problems. I like to figure out puzzles and figure out better solutions that help people with those puzzles. So On It was solving a bunch of different puzzles.
How old were you when you started it?
30.
So 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know some stuff. Maybe I shouldn't know. I don't know, but because I always
That's
hear
foreboding.
Yes. Did you recently sell the company?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Did you sell for a lot of money?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
You could say that.
So I've heard. Obviously, I don't know. We're not gonna talk about your finances or anything like that. But in 10 years, that's really impressive. At least from what I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, it was a beautiful, epic ride. I mean, my only thing, I wish I would have had a little more confidence and enjoyed it. The thing about being a founder and a CEO is you're constantly stressed out about that next lurking problem right around the next fucking corner. So even through this meteoric rise, yeah, it was fun and I enjoyed myself for a lot of times, but so much just stress and anxiousness of this next threat that was coming. And they did come, and there were challenges and there were moments where everything looked like it was going to collapse. But, we held true to our values of really like being of service to our customers, putting out the best products we can, and just treating people really well. Like no matter who it was, whether it was, our mutual friend Brendan or, Joe as a partner or anybody like Cowboy or whoever was working with us, it was like, no, you're our partner, you're our friend. Like we love you. Let's do this a different way. Let's just revolutionize the way that we interact with our influencers, with our customers, with our employees, everything.
How did you get a foothold though in the industry? Because 10 years ago on social media, wasn't then what it is now today. Yeah. Like completely different. Because I started on social media about the same time, like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like Instagram, everyone was readily with all these influencers and all. It's like, because your brand is not like the most popular brand on social, but I know that it does very, very well. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It was podcasts.
So
it was podcasts. Like we were right there from the drop with podcasts and with Joe and with a whole network of other people.
How'd you meet Joe?
I met Joe for coffee because when he first started his podcast, he had no advertisers. So we're talking early JRE, no advertisers.
Like what episode, JRE?
I mean, I was listening from episode 1. Like I was a fan, you know, of not only Joe because I was a huge UFC fan. I've watched UFC from UFC 1, like literally with my parents. Ordered it on pay-per-view, UFC 1. Yeah. My dad actually tried to start a fight organization himself.
Oh, shit.
Totally failed. but he had the right idea, you know. Yeah. So I knew him from that, and then I watched his comedy and I was like, fuck, this guy's talking about the same things that I care about. Yeah. So I arranged a meeting to talk about getting one of my clients. I had a marketing company, and one of my clients was Fleshlight, which is like
Fleshlight.
Yeah, one of my clients is Fleshlight. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I approached him and I was like, hey man, I know you don't have any advertisers on your podcast, but Fleshlight will pay you to advertise on the podcast.
So wait, you use so you're using a client to like have this conversation about
exactly just to have a conversation. I was like, I'd love to meet for coffee. We'll talk to you about, you know.
Sorry, when you say client, you mean like were you doing some sort of management?
Marketing.
You were doing marketing for that company.
Which is the easiest job in the world because it's just getting horny guys to try to fuck something.
For the Fleshlight.
For the Fleshlight, yeah.
Okay. And then so you met him through that connection.
And so yeah, I hit him up and I was like, look, we want to advertise on your podcast, or my client wants to advertise on your podcast. I'll just meet you for coffee. We'll close the deal. And the coffee that was supposed to be like 20 minutes where I was going to meet him and just kind of finish the deal turned into like a 4-hour coffee to dinner talking about super volcanoes and psychedelics, and we became friends. He invited me on his podcast. I did a couple podcasts with him. After one of the podcasts, I asked him, I was like, hey man, what's the number one supplement you would like to take more than anything else? And he was like, I'd like to take an all natural nootropic. Yeah. And I was like, okay,
He said that how many years ago?
Fucking 11 years ago.
Which is so crazy because that's not one of the most popular products today.
I know. And so he was really early in it, and I had a background. So my stepmother was the supplement and nutritional doctor for all of Pat Riley's teams. So Lakers in the 80s for that huge championship run, Knicks in the 90s with Patrick Ewing and everybody, the Heat in the 2000s won championships there with D Wade.
Damn.
And so that, you know, she really understood supplements for performance. And so when I was growing up, I was a basketball player myself. So there'd be a stack of supplements on a paper towel, you know, for game day. This is in the 90s, right? Like supplements were not what they are now. Yeah. And there'd be a stack of supplements for test day for my brain. So I understood that there was things that I could take that would alter my performance in a really positive way. So I went back to some of my roots of the things that I used to take, and then went to the science, just buried myself in the literature, found some other doctors, some neuroscientists, Dr. Martyn Lazar, Dr. Dan Ingold, some other different doctors, put together a formula, and it was strong as hell. Like so strong that it like made half the people nauseous, but Joe fucking loved it. And he was like, and I knew that we had something cool, so we just scaled it down a little bit so that.
So the Fleshlight conversation goes into like talking about maybe being a part of this company.
No, it was a whole other 2 years or a year and a half before even we had the conversation. We were just friends. Yeah. You know, so yes, Fleshlight was the first advertiser. So if you go back, back to like JRE like 70 or whatever, you know, you'll hear him do Fleshlight rates. And his management team apparently was like, Joe, you can't do this. You can't advertise for Fleshlight. And he's like, the fuck I can't. Watch me. He's
that's
like,
so funny.
That's just the way he is. He's like, if someone tells him he can't do something, he's like,
still like that.
Really? Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. And that's like one of the things I admire the most about him. But yeah, we were friends for like a year and a half. And then we'd play pool and hang out. And then it was after one of the podcasts that I asked him that question. And then ultimately the partnership just came organically because we created Alpha Brain. I created Alpha Brain. I was like, how do you like it? And he's like, I fucking love it. And then we started selling it. And then eventually we were like,
I still see this ad like all the time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Or it's like, so we're partners. We're partners in this, right? And you know, and he's like, yeah. And it was like, all right, so you need some equity in this company. It was like the most organic conversation. Yeah. And then ultimately he ended up being, you know, really a full partner in the company.
And that was early on, this stuff, right?
Yeah, it was early on.
And so do you think that was the main, like podcasting that like you said was the main thing that drove the sales for that?
Absolutely.
Was Joe a big part of that?
Joe was a big part of that. Yeah. You know, there was a lot of other podcasters. We hit the podcast market really hard right from the start. We didn't do the social influencer thing that well.
Yeah.
We still probably haven't done it that well. We have some
haven't.
influencers.
Just from what I've seen.
Yeah. That's never been the way that we went about it, but we did the podcast thing right. Like we rode that wave all the way up. I mean, we would spend $5,000 to advertise on somebody's podcast and we would get returns of like 60, 70 grand. Like that's impossible.
Shit.
That's impossible now. Because everybody understands the value of podcasts now, and there's podcast advertising networks, and you're lucky. You spend $5, you're lucky if you get $7.5 back. Yeah. Right? You're like, all right, well, repeat customers, lifetime value, we'll make this thing work.
Do you think because you were like an early adopter that's part of the reason why I did well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Nobody understood the game yet. Nobody understood like how valuable podcasts were. Everybody was sleeping, and it was hard for podcasters to get advertisers. It's like we're like, we will advertise. They're like, great, I have none.
Yeah. And the return was so high is what you're saying.
So high. Yeah. Like astronomical.
You think nowadays the return is not as high?
I know for sure the return is not as high because we still advertise. I say we, even though I sold the company, it's still mine. I'm still deeply involved in it.
Are you still like,
I'm not officially involved in anything, but it's like all my people that I hired. It's all my ethos. Yeah. I mean, I still have my office there in the headquarters, and I walk around and I say hi to everybody, and nothing has changed. On it is just as beautiful as it ever was. And I'm really happy about that. But yeah, I know all the advertising metrics. And like I said, we spend $5,000, we're lucky to get 7.5 back. We spend 10 grand, maybe we'll get 15 back, and then just hope that over lifetime value, because that's basically break even with our product cost, Right. So, but with just attracting new customers, it's just a different game.
Have you always been into working out?
Yeah,
like your whole life.
I've been in shape my whole life, and that's just one of the things that there's a lot of people who, have this big journey about like, yeah, I got really fit. I was like, well, fuck, man, I've been fit since I was like 12.
Like you came out.
It's the same. Yeah. I mean, I was always playing sports like basketball, martial arts, volleyball, tennis, whatever the fuck. I was always really good, but not great at anything. Yeah. Basketball was my best sport, but I was good enough.
I think you're great at this podcast stuff though.
Oh, thank you. You're great. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So the working out journey, like when did you know that you wanted to start like that company? Obviously we talked about the success of it, but like when did you know that was for you, and what were you doing prior to that moment?
Well, the interesting thing about Onnit in the workout space is it's all unconventional fitness. So it's kettlebells, steel maces, steel clubs, battle ropes, Bulgarian sandbags, these different.
And 10 years ago too.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was like, no one was kind of talking about that stuff.
No. So I'll tell you how that started. So the first investor in Onnit was my best friend at the time, Bodie Miller.
Sorry, I gotta pause. You were the sole owner,
founder,
and you had investors.
I took on $110,000 of seed investment, and that was the only investment that I really took into the company ever. So we started on it ever. Yeah, we started on it with 110,000. I mean, there was little chunks of equity I sold to friends and different things, right. But as far as like an official investment, that was it. 110,000, 60,000 was my friend Bodie Miller, who was the first one to show up. He was the Olympic champion, world champion skier. Had a notorious record for partying and skiing and doing both exceptionally well. And I watched him do both exceptionally well. I love it. Like said goodnight to him at 5 a.m. And then watched him win a world championship downhill race at 8 a.m. the next morning.
Trenches.
Yeah, like he's a fucking savage. And so he was my best friend. But I watched how he trained, and he trained different. The reason he was able to do that and do what he did was he trained different than everybody else. Like he trained unconventionally. He used different tools and different mechanisms. And also at the same time, one of my other best friends was Roger Huerta, who was a UFC fighter. Yeah. And, had a long career in the UFC, and he trained different too. And so I was around these guys who were doing things in different ways. And I thought, all right, well, there's tools that we can bring in, some of which they were using. They were all using kettlebells, but the maces and the clubs were just kind of an extension of that. They were using ropes as well. It was like, there's tools that elite athletes are using that the general public are not using yet. Yeah. Still. So I wanted to bring those into the forefront. Obviously Joe was a big fan, particularly the kettlebells. But I think through the MMA community, through like the extreme sport
So
community,
that's where the idea kind of started.
totally.
It didn't start with supplements right away.
It started with supplements and then moved. The idea was that like, I knew that supplements aren't enough. Like you got to eat right. You got to take the right supplements and you got to train right. Like, so total human optimization became on its moniker. That's what we were all about. So we had to hit those major categories, including like your mental fitness, right? Like the way you think about things, the way that you look at your life, the way that you look at your transformation, your growth, your goals, all of that is also crucial.
This is what I want to get into. I just wanted to set up this, like, for people who didn't know like where you've kind of come from. But the thing that I find the most interesting about you is the way that you've manifested so many other things in your life, and the way that you've connected more deeply with yourself and, you know, the community and the communities that you're trying to, you know, create. What got you into that? Like, at what point in your life were you like, because I always joke, because I have a friend who's like really into the same things. I'm like, I always be like, it's like hippie shit, but it's so, I'm not saying this in a, it's such a good thing. And I mean, like, I fully, like, I see eye to eye. Obviously I'm not as deep in that community as I believe you to be, or what I can see.
Sure.
I love it. And I'm just curious, at what point along in your life were you like, oh, this is for me? Was it along the same time, or was it after?
Yeah. So I'll tell you that story too. So I grew up, my family was more like agnostic, didn't really believe in anything, but didn't not believe in things, weren't like hardcore atheists or whatever.
Are both your parents alive?
Yes. My dad actually went crazy, actually lost his mind in about 10 years ago. I don't talk about it that much, but so he's alive, but our relationship is severed.
Like a psychotic thing?
Yeah.
Like an actual one.
An actual one.
My father took his life when I was 6. He hung himself. Fucked up.
It's tough.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say that to compare anything. I find it interesting.
I mean, I feel very blessed that I had 30 years of a relationship with him.
So like you don't have any conversation? Is he like in a like a home, or
the mental health, you know, kind of institutions that exist are just piss poor. So he's been in and out, but he's unreachable. You know, he's kind of like holed up in his house.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So, but yes, my parents are alive. I have a great relationship with my mother. I had a beautiful relationship with my father, and I still hold out a hope.
Did you see that coming?
In hindsight, there were certain things that you could see, but it happened like there was a tipping point where it happened. And once the tipping point happened, there seemed to be no turning back. But like, as I said, like I still keep a candle lit and hope that maybe someday that'll shift.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Is it like a genetic thing? Like, could that happen to you? Do you ever worry about that?
I've had to deal with that fear, but I think, you know, he started getting into different practices where he was trying to hear voices, you know, through like a spiritual practice, like it would be what you would call channeling.
Yeah.
So he was trying to hear voices, and he was trying very diligently to hear these voices. And ultimately the voices came, but they weren't the type of voices that you wanted.
Like consciously trying to make this happen, not like in a psychotic way.
No.
Like wanting this.
Yeah. You know, and some people have that channel that's available to them. Some people can hear wisdom from the universe. And, you know, he wasn't one of those people, but he created a situation where voices came.
Yeah.
You know.
And you can't have any sort of interaction with them anymore? That's
unfortunately
tough.
not. Yeah. So that's been an interesting story. And actually, you know, it's, there's a documentary that I've released the first version of. It's called Awake in the Darkness.
Recently.
Yeah. About my time spent in absolute darkness. And it tells the story, more of, you know, things that happened at that moment.
You talked about this on the podcast with McConaughey, right?
Yeah.
So what did you do? You just sat in a room of dark, like no sound, like
that was crazy. So let me back up the story.
I'm sorry. I got a little like,
there's a lot to go. So I'll back up the story to family, largely agnostic, you know, kind of phoned in some Judaism on my dad's side and phoned in Christmas on my mom's side, but nobody really, and had some Native American type spiritual beliefs, which I really resonated with. It came from my grandma. My grandma's tattooed here on my arm. But nothing really that stuck. And then I moved to Texas from California. Great idea. It was.
Sorry,
it was the
sorry.
right. It was the
Good
right.
idea.
I was early.
Wow.
But I didn't
Wow.
know how good of an
You
idea that
fucking
was.
made it, dude.
I didn't know how good of an
Yeah.
idea that was. So I get there and I see a bunch of people, and I'm in high school, and a bunch of people just so guilty about their desire to have sex with each other because they were Christian. And I was like, "What is wrong with you? Like, of course you want to fuck. What
Yeah,
do you mean? You're in high school. What is like?
Yeah.
What is going on?
Human nature.
I was like, this is bullshit. And so I started getting angry at religion. I also got honey-dicked into some fucking church ski trip one time.
Oh my God.
They were like, you want to go skiing, bro? And I was like, yeah, I love skiing.
You're like, you just got to worship God.
Yeah,
Like,
and then
wait a
every day I
second.
was like, what the fuck? I just want to go skiing.
Yo.
So I started to get mad. And then I went to Italy and I went to the dungeons of the Inquisition. So the Inquisition was where the Catholic Church started torturing all the people they called heretics. And I saw that 80% of the fucking torture devices involved people's genitals. And I was like, this is some sadistic, fucked up shit. And so I got really mad at religion. So I was actually a hardcore atheist. I thought like my purpose is to rid people of the superstition of capital R religion. That was me, right? Like that was me going into like when I was 18 years old.
This is so interesting to me because I don't obviously see it the same exact way, but there was definitely a time in my life. I grew up Catholic. I went to a Catholic high school, all boys school in San Francisco. And, they come in you go to church and they want the money and all these things. And I did all this for so long and it never felt super genuine. Like it felt like it just, I don't know, very early on, I was like, this seems like a business. It seemed like it was like they were trying to, and I'm not knocking anyone's religion. It's just, I noticed early on, I felt really disconnected from like the practice of Catholicism and how they did it. Not on the, like the spiritual sense with like, the idea of God, but the way that the way humans created all these things you have to do.
I agree, man. And that's ultimately where I arrived. So 18 years old, I go in, and one of the beautiful things about my father is he understood in like a lot of indigenous traditions, and one of which is vision quest with psychedelics. So he hooked me up with a shaman who took me to the mountains of New Mexico, and I did a full vision quest where I was out in a hut by myself overnight drinking a mushroom tea. And I think there was actually some MDMA in the mushroom tea too, so it was like extra potent.
It's not ayahuasca though.
No.
All right, I'm gonna ask you
It was
about that
mushroom
later.
tea, yeah. So I'm 18, this is 22 years ago, and I drink this MDMA and mushroom tea out in the mountains in this fucking storm, in this lightning storm. And I literally feel my body evaporate. And then the only thing that remains, the only word I had for it at the time was soul. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I thought all of these religions were complete bullshit. But now the only thing that I can feel is my soul. Like that's the only
But
thing
how
that
could you
exists.
describe, like, how could you describe that to someone? Like, obviously your body's not actually gone, right? Where did you feel it? Was it like in your chest?
That's the interesting thing. It was full out of body experience. It was literally like my body evaporated and pure consciousness remained. And it was, I wasn't even conscious that I was breathing. It was like, it was an absolute evaporation of everything corporeal, everything involving the flesh.
So visually you weren't like, oh, I can see my hands.
No, everything was gone. Everything was gone. And I was in a vision space, but the vision space looked more like, you know that scene when Russell Crowe dies in Avatar and he's like walking through a wheat field and his hands are like caressing. That's where I was literally there.
But you were sitting in a hut.
But I was actually sitting in a hut.
Okay.
But that's where I actually was. And that moment changed everything. Because that moment I felt something real that I could not deny the realness of what I felt. And then that's what sent me on this path to continue to explore, like, what the fuck is that? What did I experience? What does that mean about the world?
Yeah.
What does that mean about God? What does that mean about consciousness? And that led me to ayahuasca and iboga and
This was at
eventually that
18.
dark room. Yeah.
Okay. So, damn, it's so interesting to me, man. Because when growing up, after losing my father, I spent so much time, like, I wasn't taking mushrooms or anything. I actually related drugs because my father, like, dealt with some drug abuse before he took his life to being, like, part of the reason why he took his life. So I was very like, growing up in high school, people were like, you want to smoke? And I was very against it because I was like, oh, if I do that, I'm going to end up like my father, which was one of my biggest fears, which was also one of my biggest fears, which is interesting because I've been seeing you lately been talking about the fear of death. Mm-hmm. But I had a similar feeling like when I was, I don't know, maybe 12 years old. Like whenever I'd walk to school, every single day I would think about my father and his passing and what did it mean and what did my life, like what's the purpose? Like, why did he do this? Who am I? Like, how am I going to die? Like, why did this happen? Why does all this exist? Like, and I remember thinking like, do other kids think about all these things? Do they complicate their mind with all these thoughts? And I remember thinking about every day, thinking about what other people thought about and like, is this normal that I'm thinking about these things? Very early on, very, very early on. And I think that's part of the reason why, like, I don't know, in my life, I have perspective on a lot of maybe things that I've been through because I've been thinking about all of them for so long.
Yeah.
But I find it so interesting when you talk about this, like you know, at 18 years old, I don't think it's normal for most people to experience these things. And
not in our culture.
Not at all. And so you experience this, and then like at what point were you like, I don't know, like fully involved in it, like trying to figure it out? Because obviously, I mean,
kind of right out of the gate, because you experience something that's so different than anything you've ever felt and everything that you even think is possible. Like it's not like a dream where I was like, oh, it was a crazy dream. It was like the whole world is different than the way I look at it, right? Like everything I've ever thought up until this point has now shifted because I've experienced something. Nobody told me anything. Yeah. I experienced something that was so real that everything afterwards was changed. So I stayed curious about this and on this path for ever since then. I mean, there wasn't a year that went by that I didn't explore some other different type of ritual.
Yeah.
You know, and so all of the great rituals around the world of all of these medicine carriers, I started to explore.
Do you think these things added to your success?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I mean, in my first ayahuasca journey, so ayahuasca was actually timed. My first time I did ayahuasca was timed right before I launched Alpha Brain, right before On It actually like came onto the scene. Alpha Brain was on its first like real
So
product.
how long ago was this then?
This was,
I'm afraid to take ayahuasca.
This was like early 2011. So
Damn,
early
dude.
2011.
That's like right. This is literally right when I started Instagram. This is right when like Instagram started.
Yeah. So
Holy
early 2011, and ayahuasca did many things. I mean, it had me confront my fear of death in every possible way. I mean, I had visions of spiders crawling in my eyes and laying eggs in my brain, and spiders crawling out of my ears. I had eels eating
You're
up
making me not want to do this right now. I'm
my
telling you.
innards.
I'm like, yes,
Man, the gnarly one is I had a vision of myself sliding down a vine made of thorns, and I was naked, and it was
like
ripping
cutting
me up
you?
from the genitals up, like just shredding my ball sack. Like,
what the fuck?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, bro. And I was like, okay, I'm cool with this. Because I was
How long
used
did
to
that last though?
hours.
Not the Vine one though.
No,
It
the
kinda
Vine
shifted.
one was like
the whole
5
thing
minutes.
lasted like
The
hours,
Vine
yeah.
one was like the fucking Jack and the Beanstalk 5-minute Vine of evisceration of my nutsack.
Yeah.
But then eventually it was like, you have cancer. And I was like, no. And that was what I was really
In the
afraid
same
of.
experience?
Yeah, in the same experience.
What was all negative?
The point of it was to get me to finally accept this fear, like get beyond my fear of death. So cancer was the one that really got me. Ayahuasca was like, you got cancer. I was like, no, I don't. I'm fine. I'm healthy. I'm strong. It's like, no, you don't. You got cancer. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die just like your uncle. You got cancer. You got blah. And I was like, no. I like fucking freaked out. And then finally I was like, you know what? Fuck it.
Did you have some anxiety? Like,
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it was fucking intense.
no, but I
Ayahuasca's
mean, like
intense.
prior to doing this, did you have anxiety?
Not that I really identified. I think we do. Like, I actually think people think that cannabis gives you anxiety, but I think cannabis just reveals the anxiety that we already have.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So yeah, if I smoke weed, I would get anxious. So yeah, was I anxious? For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And in the ayahuasca, you know, I think it revealed that I had a deep fear of death, as most people do.
I do.
And
fucked up.
the way that I was most afraid of dying was
By
of
the
dying
fucking
of
giant
cancer.
thorn cutting your balls.
Well, that was one fear for sure. Death by fucking ball sack.
Holy
balls
shit.
bleeding out of my ball sack.
evisceration.
But eventually I just accepted it. I was like, if that's the way I'm going and it is my time to die, so
cancer
be it.
thing.
Yeah, so be it. And as soon as I accepted it, ayahuasca, like lovingly, it was almost like a scene from Avatar where like Awa comes up from the ground and I could feel like Mother Ayahuasca in the whole earth just embraced me in this warm hug. And she just like whispers in my ear, you don't have cancer. You're perfectly healthy. Like, and basically like, good job. Like you accepted your death and you made it through the other side. So like that was my very first ayahuasca experience. I mean, it was also a crazy shit show. We're in this hut. One shaman, Maestro Orlando, who I still work with today. He's unbelievable, but he didn't have any helpers. He's speaking Spanish. This lady next to me gets stuck in a mental loop where she's saying like, I don't know if I imagined I shit my pants or I actually shit my pants.
It smelly in
and
there?
I was like, yeah, you actually shit your pants for sure.
Nice.
And she puked on my feet. It was fucking mayhem in there. It was like absolute
Was it
mayhem.
just you two or there's more people?
No, it was like 11 people in a hut. And then when we got out of there, there was jaguar tracks, like fresh jaguar tracks right outside the hut. We're like deep in the jungle in Peru. So anyways,
He probably smelled the shit. He was like, what's going on over
yeah,
here?
for sure. He's like, someone's dying in there.
Yeah.
Someone just shit themselves. They're dead. I'm going to go eat them. But then, you know, ultimately my second journey was a much different, beautiful, ecstatic journey. I had spaceships downloading information into my tongue and like pulling smoke out of my body. And it was fucking wild. And, but also at the same time.
Okay, so describe this to me. You say the spaceships download information to your tongue. What does that look like?
Okay, it looks like this. It looks like there's this gigantic 3 football field long.
Is everything else
triangular spaceship? Everything else is black.
Okay.
And it's silver, and it has all of these like intricate carvings, or looks like runes or hieroglyphs on it, like intricate hieroglyphs over the entire thing. And this thing moves over. Imagine 3 football fields just fucking moving over silently. Moves over, and I'm like, whoa. And then all of a sudden, pretty much involuntarily, my head goes back and my tongue touches the roof of my mouth like this. And so I open my mouth and expose the bottom of my tongue, and this beam of light comes beaming down from this spaceship, this fucking 3 football field long spaceship. Beam of light comes beaming down and starts beaming underneath my tongue. And I start getting filled with the most ecstatic energy. It felt like an orgasm in every cell of my body, from my toes to my head. I was
Not
like,
just down here.
no, yeah.
Just the whole thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
the whole thing. Full body. And I was like squealing with like delight. It was unbelievable. I was like convulsing. It was crazy.
But visually it's that thing, and then this like beam, and then because I always wonder. I haven't done ayahuasca. Like I'm afraid of it. Are these things that you've already seen?
No.
Like that you're now creating this?
I mean, maybe I'd seen some kind of idea of a spaceship in a movie or something like that. But this was an organic vision. I've never seen it since. You know, like this is my one and only encounter with that anything even close to that. Yeah. Even in ayahuasca, I've seen some crazy shit in ayahuasca. I've done over 30 journeys now. But that was really unique. And after that, to get to your question, did it help me in my career?
Yeah.
I actually saw how I saw the entire journey of On It. I saw its success. I saw the way that all of the products needed to come out. I saw everything. And I saw all of the ideas that I had that were wrong, that wouldn't work. And I was able to correct them, like in my own psyche. I was like correcting all of the problems that I hadn't even made yet. I was solving future problems. Yeah.
Okay, then are you saying then those things actually did they actually come to fruition? Mm-hmm. And you were like, whoa, I remember this. Mm-hmm. No way.
Yeah. Because I had ideas about how to market things and because I came from a marketing back. I was marketing fleshlights, right? Like I had ideas about marketing that were all fucked up.
Knew about fucking plastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this was like, no. On it, like all of the things you learned, they don't apply to this new company. Like it showed me the whole way that I needed to build it. And it showed me if I did that, all of this energy would flow in and out, and it'd be like this heartbeat, and it would provide like infinite resources. And it all fucking came true.
Like, would you just surrender to that? Like,
it's so non-ordinary. It's so unusual, and it's just one example that was a very literal example of how these medicine journeys have helped me.
Yeah.
But in every other way, it's helped me with my own ability to manage stress, my ability to look at different situations and challenges and solve problems and just become a better person. And the better I became internally, the easier it was to affect the external world in a really positive way. But that one experience was fucking nuts.
Oh, bro, I'm so afraid to do it, but I want to do it so bad. Like even more now after talking to you about it. Like I got to do it.
Well, we can go.
I got to do it.
All right.
I'm dead serious.
All right.
I've been talking about doing this for like 2 years.
All right.
So, okay, let me ask you a question because this comes up a lot with my audience. I get asked this question so much in person and so much in DMs. People trying to find like their way to something that truly fulfills them. You know, a lot of people work like maybe a job they don't want to work, or they do something that they see someone else doing, like, oh, I want to do that, but they don't know how to get there. Or they have an idea, but they don't know exactly how to like make it a part of their reality. What would you recommend for someone trying to like to figure it out? You know, because I always say focus on the actual journey and the process of trying to figure out, while trying to like do more of the things that make you happy and you do feel fulfilled in. Obviously making enough time for those things, because you know, if you have a 9 to 5, it's not exactly easy to also, you know, do 10 other things that you think you want to do. But what would you say to those kind of like young men and people think, because I know I have a much more dominant male audience, but to figure that out, to figure that process of like, what is truly for me? You know what I'm saying? I get asked that so much. And again, I've given my advice, but I want to hear from you, like how you figured it out and what you would tell someone who's trying to figure out what they not necessarily should do, but the thing that they really want to do. Like they'll have an idea, but they don't know how to get there.
I think if you're really going to only focus on one thing, you got to be so fucking good at that one thing to really stand out, right? So like if you're going to be a basketball player, well, all right, there's a couple hundred people in the NBA and then maybe a couple thousand people playing pro ball around.
The barrier is huge.
The barrier is huge. Same with everything. Even if like you think podcasting wants to be a career, all right, there's maybe 500 or 1,000 podcasts that make money. You know, like it's hard if you're just going to do one thing. But if you're great at it, and you dedicate yourself to it, you can win. But it's a lot easier to win if you take two things that you're really passionate about and really good about, and you combine them. And this is what Robert Greene calls the Da Vinci effect. Because Leonardo da Vinci was good at many things. Yeah. He was good at drawing. He was good at sculpting. He was good at like math. He was good at engineering. And that's what made him Leonardo da Vinci, was he was good at many different things. And that's what created him into one of the great masters of all time.
But what's the idea of two things?
So by at minimum, combining two things. So let's say you are a yoga enthusiast and you also love mountaineering.
Yeah.
So if you combine those things and you offer yoga on the top of mountains that people have to climb, then all of a sudden anybody else in this wide world of the internet who also like yoga and mountains are going to be like, yo, this is my dude.
Yeah, you get a larger net. You get a larger net.
And it's something specific that people haven't seen, you know, or if it's like, so if you at least have two things that you can combine that you're really good at, like you're really good at mountaineering and you're really good at yoga, and you combine those two things, then you got something like really special. And I think that's what I always give people the advice of, like become a master, not at one thing, because that's really hard. And some elite people are able to succeed there. But if you become a master at many things and then combine them, then you're going to have an opportunity.
I mean, this kind of reminds me of your brand, like the total human optimization.
That was it.
Like
it was
mentally, but also physically.
Yeah, it was my ability to be good enough at many things that I was able to bring them all together. And that's what allowed me to create On It. It's also what makes for an interesting podcast or just an interesting friend or person. Yeah. You know, I mean, one of the reasons why, like, how did Joe Rogan and I get to be friends? Well, because since I was 18 for 12 years, I was doing interesting shit. Yeah. I was like really doing interesting shit, reading interesting books, living an interesting life, doing shamanic journeys out in mountains and places. And
it's crazy how everything kind of comes down to like those two things, networking and conversation. Yeah. I mean, that's how obviously we learn everything we learn. We know everything we know. We experience it. It's all through that. Yeah. It's so crazy to me.
But people don't realize that, like, it's not that everybody just wants to be your friend if you meet them. some people will. You'll have that natural resonance, but the more interesting person you are, like, and the more interesting things you have to offer, and the more you know yourself, so you're not projecting some bullshit or talking when you should be listening or all of these things, then when you meet somebody, it's sticky. They're like, oh, fuck, I like that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hang out with that guy. Like, I want to have a drink with that guy.
How do you really learn that, though? Because this is something that, like, you can't say, hey, this is how you do it. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, you know, listen, you know, when you're supposed to listen. I understand. I fully understand that. And then, like, talk when it's a good time to talk. But how do you think someone could learn that for themselves? Because there's a lot of people who just don't get that. Is it just through more experience of conversating?
That's just really the art of listening, which I think some kind of stillness practice, meditation, or sensory deprivation tanks, or breath work, or something that allows you introspection. Obviously, psychedelics are great for that. I'm not recommending psychedelics to anybody, but they really help with that. Your ability.
No, I would I love microdosing. This is the whole
for
thing,
sure. Something that allows you to get to know yourself is really important. And then the other thing, so get to know yourself some way. Step 1. Step 2, do really difficult shit. Like, if anybody does really difficult shit, I'll have a conversation with them. And that's actually what lured me into the darkness. That darkness retreat that we were talking about, where I was 6 days in absolute pitch black.
Yeah.
The reason was there was this guy that I had on my podcast, and Akshay, his name is Akshay. He comes on the podcast. He built his whole kind of mentality. He's an ex-Marine, about doing the hardest shit that he could figure out and find. So he creates like really hard things and finds really hard things to do. He was telling me about this one, and I was like, oh, this one sounds fucking cool.
You've always liked to challenge yourself this way?
I have, yeah. This is an old technology, and it's a technology of initiations. All the tribes had initiations that are hard. Some jungle tribes have created this bungee jumping thing where you jump off this fucking platform as high as you can, and then you're tied on the feet with a vine, and you hit the ground, but the vine like keeps you from smashing yourself completely from dying. Yeah. And then some people put their hand in a glove full of bullet ants, and the bullet ants sting the hell out of it. It's like one of the most painful stings. There's initiations that happen that we're used to that teach us something about ourselves. And I think that's why people are attracted to ultra marathoners and different, like, people who do difficult stuff. Obviously Wim Hof, all of the cold immersion, sweat lodges, and different things, hot immersion. All of this is like really important so that you get to know yourself and you get to trust yourself. Sports can do it too. You know, a really hard fucking workout can do it.
Look at Jim has done it for me for sure.
Absolutely. It. Like, there's those moments where you want to fucking quit,
but it's still a different degree.
And you don't quit.
Then like this being somewhere for however many days in complete darkness is like fucking terrifying to me.
Yeah. Well, that means you're a little scared of your mind. Yeah, that's the thing.
Oh yeah, yes, I will admit that.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting thing. It's like having a monster that lives under your bed, but you don't want to look under the bed to see what monster it is. So every night you jump in onto the bed, and you're like, I hope the monster doesn't get me. But that's what it's like. And I was the same way, man. I mean, I'm the same way. I was like, fuck, like what's the monster that lives in my own head? Also, my dad went insane. So that's in my back of my head.
Yeah, like, is this going to do
I
this for me?
I better go confront my mind head on. I better see what's up here. And 6 days in absolute silence, isolation, and blackness. And I'm not talking about darkness. I'm talking about absolute black.
When did you eat?
So they have another blacked out hallway, absolute black, double doors, no light, that they drop off food at various times of the day. They mix up the times, and they ring a little bell. And that lets me know that there's a tray full of food in a blacked out hallway.
You're just like,
I feel my way over
your
there.
eyes don't adapt at all?
There is zero light.
So there's nothing to adapt to.
There's nothing to adapt to.
Okay.
Like literal zero light. And actually, the funny thing to just show how sensitive your eyes do get. So I didn't realize this, but I had there's a crystal that I had on one of my necklaces. Yeah. It was an ayahuasca necklace. It had like a little ayahuasca thing. And they had a crystal on it that glowed in the dark. I didn't know it glowed in the dark, but it glowed in the dark. Natural glow in the dark crystal.
That's cool.
But I've never seen it before. But then I had it in a medicine, in like a cabinet above the sink. I had a little tiny room, cabinet above the sink. And then like 6 hours in the absolute black, I'm like, this is some Pulp Fiction shit. My fucking cabinet is glowing. Like, what is going on? It's like, is there a soul trapped in there?
Oh my
What is it? And then I
God.
look in and
They dosed me. They dosed me.
yeah, I look in and it was my necklace. But yeah, so I had to like put that in like a couple things of socks and then get rid of it because there's literally zero light. So you adapt to nothing. There's not a fucking photon that's bouncing around anywhere. There's no light.
So you're in this and you like, what are you going through in your mind? What are you experiencing?
Fuck, man. Well, first, you're just in there with your mind, and your mind tries to solve all of your internal problems externally. So I was thinking of all of these things that I needed to do.
You mean
with
in this
my
moment
life.
or all the time, do you think?
I think all the time.
Okay.
I think we're always looking for an external solution to an internal problem.
Oh, that's a fact.
Right?
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like whatever it is. Oh, maybe if I get a new girlfriend, maybe if I get a new thing, a job, or maybe if I could buy this new thing, maybe if I have this coffee or this nicotine or this other thing, or maybe I need to go work out and I need to
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change the way that I look.
There's a way that you deal with all of the different situations that are all external, but really the source of the problems are internal. But I didn't really realize that because a day and a half in, I was going to fucking move cities. I was going to change relationships. I was going to change careers. And then finally, like at the end of day 2, I'm like, what the fuck? Actually, everything is perfect. All of my problems are internal problems.
Yeah.
And so I really started to confront the root of these different things, which involved, ultimately my fear of allowing myself to love my life fully because I know that I have to die. And it was this hidden cowardice that I think we all have, where it's like, if I don't love my life fully, if I die or my life changes, then it won't hurt so bad. It won't hurt so bad.
I felt that.
Yeah, it's deep, man. It's deep. It's like, you can look at this and just say like, oh yeah, it's cool. But if you really look at it and really see how beautiful it is, how beautiful your partner is, how beautiful your friendships are, then you have to confront the terrifying fact that you may lose them, and you will lose them because time takes everything from us.
Yeah.
But the true horror, the true horror of horrors is to go through your entire life never having loved fully. And this is the lesson that ultimately came out of that. Like, fuck that. Even if I lose everything, I'm going to live and I'm going to love the best I can like a fucking warrior poet.
How is it that you how do you think that, because I know very clearly that love is the most important thing in life, and it's like it's the thing that drives everyone like in some form, and I can't fully accept that. Like I can't fully accept that thought, the thing that you're saying, even though I know it to be true.
Yeah.
Why do you think, I mean, you wouldn't know exactly why, but I guess the better question is, how the fuck do I figure that out? How do I come to that real, like I know it, but I'm not allowing it to be my truth.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I need to go in the dark chamber or something.
Yeah, it's the darkness. The darkness can help.
But that's the thing,
these
'cause obviously-
transformational things can help. It is fucking difficult though, because I learned that lesson so deep, man. And you'll see this in the documentary. And anybody who wants to watch the documentary, it's free. You can go to aubreymarcus.com, check it out. It's called Awaken the Darkness. Yeah. But I pull my eye mask off for the first time. So they led me outside. There's a very good eye mask called a mindfold that blocks out all light. So it still keeps you in total black. It's not like a normal blindfold where you can see shit out the sides. They led me with this mindfold out onto the porch, and it was sunset. And it's this beautiful place in Germany, and it's overlooking like this long stretch of meadows. And on the other side is France, and it's this beautiful scene. And I hadn't seen any light, not a single sight, or heard a single sound of nature, or felt the breeze on my face, nothing, for 6 days. And I take my eye mask off for the first time, and I look out at the world, and I just start fucking crying and bawling, because I realized that I had taken the whole world for granted my whole life. All of these beautiful sights, all of these beautiful relationships, everything that had been so amazing in my life, I'd taken for granted. And in that moment, I realized it. And I realized not only how beautiful it was, but the grief and the tragedy of not having loved it fully for the entirety of my life.
Fuck. That's heavy.
It's heavy. And I try to remember that as much as I can, but you know what? I still forget. And it's still difficult to remember that. So I have to intentionally choose to remember that, and I'll probably go back to the darkness to remember it again, because I remembered a little bit of it. Like I got to 100% right then, and then slowly over time it wore back down.
So it has to be a habitual thing.
Some kind of way to get yourself back to that state, and that's the quest, because I want to feel that way. I want to feel like
that ultimate gratefulness.
Yeah, I want to feel that radical gratitude, and I have practices that help me. One practice that helps me with this is it's a breathing practice. Very simple. It's very simple. I breathe in and I say, I love myself. Love myself in my mind. And then I breathe out, I am grateful. Or thank you. I can say that. Love myself, I am grateful. And I think about all the things I'm grateful for. I love myself. And when I say I love myself, I just start to remove all the judgments, because I'm so fucking hard on myself, man.
Yeah.
Like, so hard on myself.
Me too.
And so I just try to just remind myself, like, hey man, you're doing a good job. Like, you're doing your best. Like, I love you for that. Like, and be that voice of that good parent that a lot of us never really had. Maybe some of us did and we're lucky. My mom was like that. But that voice of like, no, you're fucking doing it. You're doing your best. You're doing a good job. Like, I love you. But you say it to yourself, like, I love myself. And then move into the gratitude. Like, yeah, I'm grateful. Like, thinking about all the beauty of my life and just life in general.
You know what I find interesting? I think there's a stigma around this kind of talk and speak to yourself as a man.
Yeah.
I think there's a stigma around like it being weird or normal, or like, oh, still today. I mean, I know that like people are like pushing that narrative forward more, but I still think the general population and what you're saying, I fully fucking know it helps, because I do it to myself and I do it for myself, not in the exact same way you're talking about it. But for sure, when I first started, I was like, the fuck am I doing? Like, almost like judging myself for something that I know is actually really beneficial to myself. Yeah. I just think it's so interesting, because in the world today, like, it's still somewhat of the stigma that like, oh, it's weird, or it's different, or it's like, why are you doing that? Or, you know, you should just be tough.
Yeah. Suck it up, pussy.
Yeah. And I just wish there was more people who would listen to stuff like this, or would listen to people like you and see that, because dude, you're like a massively successful human being on tons of different scales, right? And you're actively going inward and trying to figure out what's going on inside. And like, I guarantee since that 18-year-old journey, the thing that you were talking about, like, you've been on that. And this is probably why you're at the point you're at in your life, where you have all the success that you have, you have the financial freedom that you have a beautiful wife, like, because you started early trying to figure those things out. I think that's so essential. And I'm just talking to people now, like, if listening, whether you're 18 or 30, the thing that I want to say is, don't be ashamed or don't be shy to try to start some of these things now, even in the smallest way. Yeah. You know, because I know when I first started, I was like I said, I'm saying it, and then I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I have this weird, and I'm becoming more and more comfortable with it, and even more comfortable speaking about it. But I really appreciate you sharing this, and I just think it could help so many people, man. Like, so that's one of the ways, right? What are the other ways that you practice? Because I always try to figure this out with people, how, like, what they're doing to actually have their, you know, obviously mental clarity, but their success. Because these are little kind of like, would you say you do these weekly? You do them daily? Daily. Depending what's going on, daily.
Daily. I mean, it doesn't take long. The breaths, like those little breaths, even if you do 10 of them, what is that? A minute? Yeah. It takes 1 minute of time. And you'll be surprised. Like, I challenge people to do that for 10 breaths. Watch how your mind will try to wander. Watch how your mind at breath 6, you'll start thinking about some other shit.
Yeah, like what's on my phone.
Yeah, your mind will start to wander. It's almost like your mind doesn't want you to get to that state. Which is
so weird.
Which is very weird. And this is and so we're in conflict with different aspects of our own psyche. And this is a way to help train train yourself.
I guess why it's not weird, though, it makes sense to me, is because we probably trained ourselves the other way.
Totally. Yeah, and we've learned the other way. You know, a lot of our male mentors and coaches. You know, it's a different idea. It's like, if you love yourself too much, you're not going to be motivated. It's the opposite, and you start to see this now coming out in, you know, really good coaches. Like I love watching Pete Carroll coach.
Yeah.
Cause he's like so fucking enthusiastic. It doesn't matter if Russell Wilson throws like, I remember a playoff game, Russell Wilson having a fucking horrible game.
Yeah.
Threw like 4 interceptions or whatever. Every time, you know, Pete Carroll was like clapping and like clapping him and clapping, you know, patting him on the back. Like, you got this.
Yeah.
And then they ended up coming back and beating the Green Bay Packers in that playoff game, where, you know, the other coach for the Packers, McCarthy, was the
He'd be
opposite.
throwing the fucking clipboard down.
Yeah, like
the fuck are you doing?
losing his mind, getting mad at people. And it was just like, no, this is the way. Like, you show people, you give people this kind of love and encouragement, and then they'll perform their very best because they won't have fear. Like, fear is a contractive force.
Yeah.
So if we can move beyond fear in every way, 1, by doing hard shit, and 2, by being that encouraging, loving voice to ourselves. It's like being our own coach, being our own team captain, and doing it the right way, like encouraging with love.
Why do you think for men there's such a stigma around that though? Like the love, the freedom, and like because like it's involving the feminine into it, right?
Yeah,
like,
it really
why is there
is.
such a stigma around it?
I think there's been this kind of hyper masculinity that's really trying to create hard men. And really what I think we want is men who are so strong, so fucking strong, they can be soft. Like, hard is brittle. You know, hard is like calloused and armored, you know, and that means that you're always prepared for some kind of, you know, attack that's going to happen. But if you're really strong, like really fucking strong, then you're not worried about anything. So you don't need armor, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you're the fucking dragon. You're the dragon. You don't need to be snarling around the place. You're like, I'm a fucking dragon. Like, I got this. I can be soft. Like, curl up next to me. You know, like, I'm a lion. Like, I'll lick you on the fucking ears. Like, nobody's going to fuck with me. I'm a lion, right? Like, there's a softness to the strength that I think is the new man that needs to emerge, rather than the hard man. I'm hard. I'm fucking hard.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the way. Like, be so strong that you can be soft. And I think that's the new model. You know, it's not just be soft.
Right.
That's not going to work. You got to be so strong that you can be soft. A great example of that is Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy's a bad motherfucker in all categories, with his bare hands or with a gun or with a knife or with whatever. One of the baddest dudes on the fucking planet. But you meet him, he gives you the warmest hug. He wears little tiny short shorts and he's got a big old smile. And you feel like if like you needed somebody to like cuddle up with, Tim would be your guy, you know? And he's the fucking strongest, like toughest dude in the world, but he can be that way because he knows how strong he is.
But it's almost more about, like being comfortable with who you really are.
Right.
And not having to have this front of like, I'm tough or I'm strong, or because it's kind of just a facade. It's fake.
It's
not,
when you really know your strength, you don't have to put on that show. Like the worst people to hang out with are like amateur MMA fighters with like a fucking 8-6 record and fucking tribal tattoos. Like,
they're the toughest.
They're the toughest. They're
yeah.
the toughest.
Yeah.
But then you hang out with a world champion, like a real world champion.
Yeah.
And they're so chill. They're so fucking relaxed.
It's
they
knowing really what they're capable of.
They have nothing to prove.
Yeah.
You know, they know that they're a bad motherfucker, and they're not like trying to flex on you. You know,
it's like, just how do you get there? You know,
it's doing hard shit over and over and over again. And that's, you know, one of the reasons why Tim and I are friends is we do hard shit in different ways. Sometimes there's an overlap. We'll both like hit it hard in the gym and push ourselves that way. But I do hard shit that he's really scared of, like the ayahuasca journeys. He's scared of that. Like the darkness journeys. He's scared of that. Going into a sweat lodge where it's 4 hours in a fucking steaming hot pitch black hut where you're just praying and burning sweet grass, and he doesn't want to do that either.
This guy sounds like me.
Yeah.
Minus like the
the
other shit.
But you know, so we've done hard shit in different ways. So we look at each other and he's like, I respect you. And I look at him and I'm like, I fucking respect you.
Yeah.
Because the shit that he does, I'm like, nope, thank you. You know, I will die. I will literally die. And he looks at me and he's like, yep, I will fucking go insane. Like,
Yeah. I want to do that dark thing so bad.
Yeah.
Because that sounds terrifying, but that's why I want to do it.
Yeah.
Like
And what's interesting is around day 3 to 4, you start having visions.
Like, as if you close your eyes and you saw things, or open eyes and you saw things?
Open eyes, closed eyes doesn't
Still
make a
black,
goddamn
right?
difference. So
But I mean, what can you relate it to? Like right now, obviously you're not in a dark room. If you close your eyes.
It's the only thing you can relate it to is a DMT journey, but it's not as intense as ayahuasca DMT. But I mean, I was having fucking visions, like Buddha, like a golden Buddha showed up. I had I have more spaceships. I have a lot of spaceships.
But when you
in my
say
dream.
these things, is it super like clear and vivid, or is it like,
yeah, it's
smoky?
kind of a little bit hazy. There's certain medicines where visions will come really clear. Iboga is one of the medicines where visions come like, holy shit, it's in like hyper realistic 5 fucking D, like unbelievable detail in the visions, but that's really rare. Usually on ayahuasca or any kind of DMT, visions are a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
So they have varying degrees of like, but this was definitely a little bit fuzzy. So I saw this golden Buddha figure, and you kind of see it, and then it gets fuzzy, and I had all kinds of fucking visions in there. But what happens is that the process, as far as we understand it, hasn't been studied sufficiently. But when you shut off all photoreceptors in your body releases a bunch of melatonin, which we know that happens. That's for fact. But there's photoreceptors in your skin, in your inner ear. So even blind people are still receiving light, even though they can't see. So it's not like blind people are having visions like this all the time either, because they're still getting photoreceptors.
Okay.
They're still releasing melatonin based upon the light that's being sensed by the entirety of their body. But in this case, you get dumped with melatonin because there's no light. And the absence of light is what triggers the body's melatonin.
It makes you go a little loopy then.
Yeah, it makes you really sleepy at first. So you're sleepy as hell for the first 2 days. But that excess amount of melatonin, they believe, has some kind of chemical pathway that ultimately results in either the production of DMT or the production of the chemicals that inhibit the breakdown of DMT. But in either case, you get a surplus of DMT. And with that surplus of DMT, you start seeing shit. And so not only are you so for the first 3 days, you're dealing with your mind and absolute blackness. And then the next 3 days, I was dealing with my mind and being in a vision state for 3 days, where I was seeing visions for 3 days.
That's so gnarly.
And some visions are beautiful. I had like beautiful visions of like flowers and cherry blossom trees that went on infinitely, and oceans with fish swimming and coral, and beautiful fucking visions. And then other times I had this one vision that lasted 2 hours, and it was like, you know what a wheat thresher looks like?
Yeah. The big thing.
So it was like a big wheat thresher, except it wasn't wheat that it was threshing. It was human bodies,
What?
babies and children and men and women. And they were just getting churned and bloody angry. That was my vision.
You're into this. I just picture the thorn thing and then these fucking babies.
Yeah,
and
and sometimes this is the thing this is why it's hard.
Fuck.
Like you don't know, and it's gnarly. And I know enough that I'm like, motherfuck. Like I don't like this vision. I hate this vision. This is terrible. But the more you try to change it, the longer it persists.
Yeah.
And like the more you try to, because even if it's a vision, you can still kind of like look away with your mind and try to change it and think of something else. And that's why it lasted so long, is because I resisted it so much, because it was so horrifying.
Dude, you know what's crazy about this conversation right now? I have to pee so bad, and I've been resisting it for the last like 5 minutes. I swear to God.
Let's do it.
Give me 1 second. I gotta pee
Let's
real
do it.
quick.
Let's
Oh
do
my
it.
God. Holy shit, man. When we started talking about resisting it, it gets worse. Oh my God. I've always wanted to try ayahuasca. I'm just scared.
Ryan just went to go do it with, we have a shaman down in
Recently?
It was fucking, for me, it was amazing.
Everyone always says good things about it.
I've been doing a lot of meditation lately, so for me, the whole thing was like meditating. It was chill, but at the same time, someone else was like in space, having a great time, and then this other person was in this awful place, all in the same room. It's like your brain is going to react super unique to you.
Yeah, it's
So when
different
you
for
hear people
everybody.
explain it, it's never going to be what you hear.
Yeah, it's
And
always a difference.
yeah, then you go in thinking like, oh, I'm going to see dragons, and you'll never see a dragon.
No, it's just different for everyone. I think.
Yeah, and that-
Because I talked to someone I met too, and he told me his experience, and it was
It
super.
gives you
random.
what you need. It
Yeah.
gives you your memories, and it helps you through your shit. But at the end of the day, if you feel like it's going to be something positive, it will be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
So you think it's like more on how you perceive.
it kind of is, and it shows you that too. Like basically, it shows you everything.
If you tell yourself it's going to be a negative experience, most likely
It's like, okay, that's what you wanted. Yeah, exactly. And I was scared too, but I was like, man, should I take? Because they let you take more than one cup. And I was scared. I was amazing. Then I was on it like, man, you just gotta stop
That's so
freaking out about these things, you know?
Holy shit, that was incredible. Dude, that pee was like,
They say you're called.
What?
Let's do ayahuasca, man.
Yeah.
I have to. Well, I'm gonna talk about
This
it.
place called Soltara in Costa Rica, bro, is such a fucking nice
I have to do it.
Such a nice place.
Are we live still? Okay, dope. Oh my god! So that pee, I swear, it was like I was fighting a demon, and it was that was amazing. That was one of the best pees. I needed it. Okay, so I want to talk more about the darkness experience. So you said the third day you're seeing things now.
It started with like flashes of light. So you're in pitch black, but all of a sudden there's these flashes
White
of light,
light,
like a
blue
strobe,
light.
white. And then that evolved into like what I could only describe as polyps. Like there was these like droopy drops of that, which was like glow in the dark green, like gack. Like someone had like glow in the dark goopy shit that was coming from the ceiling and
Like
up
slime
from the ground.
stuff from like
Okay. Yeah, like kind of like stalactites
Nickelodeon-
and
Nickelodeon
yeah,
slime?
exactly.
Okay.
Like slimy gack looking polyp things, which was very weird. There was like, it looked like glow in the dark. And that was when the first vision, and then eventually the flashing stopped and the polyps ended. And then it was just like these fractal.
But how long did it last for? Like it's there. It's like 5 minutes.
I mean, the whole time, like hours.
Holy shit!
It never stops. Once the visions start, they don't stop. They just shift. So
Whoa!
they transform from that into these different fractal patterns and these giant like blimps.
But hold on. But okay, you described earlier about taking the thing off and then you saw it and then you broke down. They didn't stay all the way up until that.
Yeah.
point. Oh shit.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. It was
So
3
as soon as
days,
you- so
3
then
days of vision straight.
So as soon as you took the thing off, did that all go away?
The visions went away.
Oh wow. This is gnarly.
Actually, the visions went away as soon as I went into the light.
Oh, so it's touching you here.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Like as soon as I went into the
No
light.
way.
Yeah.
That fast.
Yeah.
Your body's aware. That's so crazy.
It was crazy. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Uh-huh.
And you knew it. You were like, I'm outside, and then
And then the visions, I never actually thought about that till this moment, but the visions were consistent all the way through until I got outside into the light. And then even before I took my blindfold off, the
was
vision
gone.
stopped.
That is
Because I left it on for like a good 10, 15 minutes because I wasn't ready to take it off yet. I had to like get prepared for this moment. It was
Yeah.
a big fucking moment. So yeah, and then but the visions had stopped.
Okay, so third day, so you get this, and then what comes next? What else is there?
Well, like I said, the vision of the Buddha came, and that was fucking cool. Buddha comes. I was having a tough time. I was towards the very end of a long polyamorous relationship with my partner.
I want to talk to you about that in a
with
little
my
bit.
partner Whitney, and man, that was hard. Like we had a lot of love and a lot of laughs, but fuck was that hard because
So the people listening to polyamorous is like multiple partners.
yes, both of us
Yeah.
were able to have multiple partners, and we were absolutely honest. So,
So
one of the
this whole journey came to at the end of that.
it was 8 years,
Oh, fuck.
8 years in relationship, 6 years were polyamorous.
And so
And-
you're talking about like your girls with other men, like
Yes,
other men,
I will tell you, bro.
other like, hold on, other relationships, like
Yeah,
dating that guy, like
yeah. And look, I had
this is fucking crazy
I
to
had,
me, by the
I
way.
had 2 or 3 other girlfriends. So like I mean, I'm living my life and I'm fucking totally honest. We're honest about everything. And that was the beautiful part, was the honesty. The honesty was the beautiful part. And any little bit of dishonesty was fucking devastating because it's already so hard. Like it's
How the I just
so all right, let me tell you. I thought so
I'm sorry, the darkness story. We got to get back to that, but this is so I got to know about this.
Yeah, this is deep. So ultimately I realized like, man, I love women. I love women.
Amazing.
And I love they're amazing.
Yes.
It's like, man,
fucking-
holy shit. I love
I
women.
feel that.
I love women. And it's not like I love them to use them. I love women. I love their smell.
Yeah.
I love kissing them. I love looking at them. I love fucking them.
The
I
energy,
love,
everything.
I love everything about them. So ultimately I was like, fuck, I don't think I can do this monogamy thing. So what's my other option? I can cheat like a lot of the guys I know, and I don't have any judgment towards cheating. It was not an option for me. That level of dishonesty and created far too much anxiety.
Yeah.
And it just was not an option. It's not the way I wanted to live my life.
Yeah.
Jacob,
go.
We got a package at the door.
We got something at the door.
So we'll wait for that. For the
no
package
worries.
to arrive, and I'll go into this.
This is so interesting to me, man. Like, this is so crazy. I have a lot of questions about this.
Yeah. Package has arrived.
What is that?
I don't know. Something from Amazon, probably.
Yeah.
All right. So I realized, like, all right, what are my options? My options are either continually be, single-ish, have short relationships, and then continue.
Were you weighing
to
these
have
options before you got into this relationship?
I was in a monogamous relationship with Whitney, who's a badass. She's a fucking badass. Whitney's incredible. But I was still like, fuck, I can't be monogamous. So after a year and a half, we broke up. I was like, listen, I can't be monogamous. I would be with you, but I think I have to try being polyamorous. I think I have to be able to see other people.
Yeah.
And she was like, fuck you. Like, I'm out. And I was like, respect. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
No worries. But then like 3 months later, she's like, man, I still love you. And I was like, I still love you, but I'm seeing this other girl. So if we do this, like, I'm going to be seeing this other girl and you, but you're the queen, but like, this is my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And it was brutal for
How
her.
old were you?
I was 32.
Okay. That's how old
32.
I am. What do
yeah,
you know?
32,
What
33.
do you know?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And so at that point, she was like, all right, I'm going to try it. So for a year, she was just in hell because I would be like, all right, babe, I'm going out with my girlfriend tonight. We're going to get a hotel room and I'll be back in the morning. And she would just be crying in the living room. And I was pretty insensitive, to be honest, because I was like, babe, you agreed to this.
Like I told you.
I told you. Like, this is what's the deal? And she was like, I know, but it's so hard. And I was kind of a little callous. And she didn't see anybody for like a year. I remember the first guy she started dating. First guy she started dating was this guy who was working out in the On It gym.
Okay.
And I saw them kind of like flirting, and I was like,
Yeah.
the fuck?
So
What the fuck?
Double
What
standard.
the fuck?
So fucked.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, it's cool. But she didn't end up having sex with him. It didn't end up working out, But he was like better at this one particular
God damn
exercise
it!
in the
Son
gym.
of a bitch!
Yeah, I know.
Yo.
So one of the tests that we do is we have this medicine ball. We take a medicine ball and we throw it for distance over our head to see how far we can throw it.
This guy just hucked that shit.
And I had the record in the gym.
Oh, and he
right?
beat you?
And he beat me. He fucking beat me by like 6. I was like, that motherfucker. So I was in there every day throwing balls, trying to mark it. I never beat him. He was
so
always better
fucking
than me.
funny.
But she didn't end up having sex. So I was like, all right. They made out or whatever. They kind of like, felt each other up, but they never had sex. And then she was like, I'm not into him. I was like, oh, phew. But I got a little taste of it. And then she starts dating a legendary professional UFC fighter. And I won't mention who it is.
Right.
But legendary professional UFC fighter. And ultimately, like, they're feeling it. But they still hadn't had sex yet. And I'm about to go off on another spiritual journey where I was going to be 3 weeks in isolation, not darkness, just by myself, meditating, just kind of doing, it's called a dieta.
Like in a jungle.
No, it was actually, it was in British Columbia near Vancouver Island.
Okay.
It was out in the islands there. So I was just going to be by myself, no phone contact, no anything, just kind of being with
coming
myself.
back and she's telling you.
So I'm leaving, and it was like, I say goodbye to her, and she had just finished like dating this guy, seeing him, but he was supposed to leave the same time that I was. And I'm literally in the airport.
Like, perfect.
I was like literally in the airport, and I hear them get on the PA announcement, and they announce his name. They say, so-and-so, last call, you're going to miss your flight. So-and-so, you're going to miss your flight. And I was like,
What the fuck are the odds of this
what
shit?
are the odds of that?
What the fuck?
And I was like, that motherfucker stayed. He fucking stayed because he's going to fuck with me.
Yeah.
And I knew it. I fucking knew it. And I'm like, and it's like, it's killing me. I'm like so like anxious in my stomach, but I was like, maybe not. Maybe he just missed his flight. Maybe he's going to catch the next one.
Nothing serious.
So I was supposed to be in total isolation for 3 weeks, but like 10 days in, I couldn't take it anymore because I just kept thinking like, did he stay? Did they have sex?
Oh my God.
And then so I call her and I was like, hey, I know I'm not supposed to call you and I'm breaking this like spiritual commitment that I made, but I gotta know. Like, I gotta know. Did he stay and did you guys have sex? And she's like, yeah, he stayed and we had sex. And I was like, okay, I need a minute. I just hung up. I hung up the phone, and I've never felt a feeling like that. I felt like I wanted to cry. I wanted to punch a wall. I wanted to vomit.
Yeah.
I was like absolutely wrecked, and I was wrecked for like hours. And every time I would think about them having sex, it was like okay, they just had sex, and then I would imagine them just like missionary having sex. And then I was like,
Oh God.
and then I was
damn
like,
it, bro.
oh, he probably fucked her doggy style, didn't he?
Oh,
I was like,
God damn
fuck.
it.
I was like,
No.
Yeah, I was like, oh fuck, he probably spanked her too,
Oh.
didn't he? He probably did. She
You know
probably
they-
liked it too.
Oh, you know what they say when it's
fuck.
like when it falls out and then she puts it back in too.
Yeah,
It's like the
yeah,
worst.
yeah.
You know that it happened.
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, she's probably sucked his dick after he pulled it out. And I was like thinking of all these things. It was devastating. It was
How
absolutely.
the fuck can you ever be okay with that?
I never really was.
Okay.
I never really was. And that was the challenge of it. I mean, you get used to it in a way, like you get tough. Really, this was the thing. Like, yes, I got stronger, but I also got harder. Like I got like a little bit of callous and a little bit of ways that I dealt with it. And it only got harder from there. Because she then got to even more like aggressive sexual partners. That one fucking destroyed
What do you mean aggressive people? Like people who are into like BDSM or some
Yes.
shit? Oh fuck.
Yes. So I
That's specifically the thing I just said?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yo, this is
Yes.
fucking gnarly.
So she explored that with another partner. That was I mean, I can't even, that took me years to get over. That was a short relationship. She was in this, she saw this guy like 3 or 4 times, but like I could see the roadmap of everything that they'd done like on her body. And I was like,
What the fuck? Yeah.
it was absolutely, and it's not something that like, I get it. I like playing in those waters
For sure.
too. Like I like being freaky, and she likes being freaky. So it's all good. It's all her playing. But even though it was 3 years later, so if we go back to the darkness, like it had been 3 years since she'd seen this guy.
Yeah.
And I was still like dealing with the fucking pain and trauma of that experience
God.
in the darkness. So there was that experience, which was brutal. And then at Burning Man one year, we were all at Burning Man, she fell in love with somebody.
Oh,
She fell in love with somebody else. And that was fucking brutal too. And so all of these different things
She told you I think I'm in love with this person.
that was a challenging moment because I could feel it. And I was like, yo, like you're in love with this guy. She's like, and I'm like, I can tell. And she's like, yeah, I'm, we're in love.
How long were they dating for?
They dated for all the way up through, that was Burning Man, like 2018. So 2 years they were dating from 2018 to 2020. They were still dating when I was in the darkness. So it was over 2 years. They eventually broke up after we broke up, but she was still with him when I was in the darkness, and we were still seeing each other. But it was fucking brutal, man.
So all these partners knew though that you were there as well, right? They were aware that it was like,
oh yeah.
Okay.
And I knew them all. We'd go out and we'd have lunch. Like I met every single one.
I don't get it, bro.
I
It's
met
like-
every single one of them, and like, fuck, it was hard. It was hard as hell. But I had my freedom. I had some amazing, beautiful relationships. Stephanie and Savannah and all of these other amazing women that I got to spend time with, and Maya and all of these beautiful, incredible women. So I was doing the same thing.
Yeah, I get it.
And
But-
she was dealing with it on her end, but it was so hard.
I understand the concept. It's just like so much to me, like the trust, and then it's like trying to move forward. I'd have such a hard time knowing that. Like the things you say, like seriously, the sexual stuff, like the position, she's sucking all these things. I'm like, I can't look at you the same. Even if I was doing it too.
I know.
I just can't.
And it's not like you don't, I loved her. She was my sweetheart. Like she was my fucking sweetheart. Like I loved her
I don't know how
so
you did
much.
it. I don't know how you did it.
It was really, really hard. It was really, really hard. And to be honest, I gave it everything I had. I did the best I fucking could, and I was never good enough or conscious enough or whatever it would have taken. I never made it. And so I can talk to people who want to be polyamorous, and I'm like, listen.
You mean with her or just with polyamory?
With polyamory, I ultimately failed. polyamory
Yeah.
because I couldn't ever deal with it
And so you did that up until 2020?
up until
And
2020.
then when did you meet your...
So I met Vailana in 2016 and we became really good friends.
Got it.
And then she was transitioning out of a relationship then. I knew that I had really strong feelings
This
for
is
her.
why I don't believe girls can have guy friends. Because they're just waiting for their time. I just want to talk about that real quick. It's like, you met her in 2016.
Yeah.
And now look, you guys are fucking like married, dude.
Yeah.
It's like you're together.
I knew it as soon as I saw Vailana, and we were polyamorous, so I was free to date Vailana, but she just wasn't interested in being polyamorous with me.
Yeah.
So like there was a lot of attraction there, and we'd actually hooked up one time in like a threesome situation, which was fucking great.
Amazing.
But ultimately, like, you know, she was in another relationship, but that relationship was ending, and my relationship with Whitney was ending. Polyamory didn't work, and so it just kind of all came together. And
do you think girls can have guy friends? Serious question.
Yeah,
I mean, of course they can, but do you think that like
you have to, it's interesting. Like, and you get to be, I think with the amount of introspection that I have and also the sensitivity I have to read people's energy, you can tell when there's another motivation and another thing that's going on. And you have to be mindful. Like one of the great lessons of polyamory is you get very, very acute at sensing whether your girl has energy with somebody else and whether somebody else has energy with your girl, because everything is talked about and everything is free. So everybody is communicating freely. There's no reason that they don't communicate. So you get really good feedback.
And so then you're talking about then body language and all the stuff that is unspoken. You get good at understanding
because you get to ask.
Because you get the verbal yes and no.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, I would see something and I'd be like, hey, you kind of fucking into that guy. And she'd be like, yeah, I am.
I see.
And I would like swallow hard and be like, okay, cool. You know? And there was many of those different situations. And obviously we were still practicing getting good at that. And sometimes we would feel something and not share it. It's obviously better if you shared it. Right. I mean, the guy that she ended up falling in love with, I could tell that there was energy between them, but she hadn't told me yet. And he was being super weird with me, like super weird. And we were all out partying. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? Yeah. Like, he won't even look at me. He won't look at me in the eye. And I would look at him right in the eye and he'd be like, watch. He won't look at me. And she's like, and then Whitney was like, stop. Like, like we have feelings for each other. But I was like, all right. Yeah. Yeah. Like I can fucking tell. So then I pulled him aside and I was like, hey bro, like, it's okay. Like you're allowed.
Like, that's my girl. Fuck off. No, that's what I would have done. God damn it.
I know, but you can't.
I get it. No, I get it.
You can't, because she could have done this, and she would do the same to me. So I was like, it's all good. You know, like I know you and Whitney have a thing. Like this is our relationship. Like this is okay. Yeah. Like it's all good. And he's like, oh wow, and like he was cool. He was actually really cool, but it was really awkward for him. Because obviously, like I'm a big guy, and I'm
you're way taller than I thought you were gonna be. I was like, holy fuck, dude.
Yeah, so like it was intimidating, and also I'm very successful. All these things, it was intimidating. So I always did my best to be noble in those situations and be a gentleman and be like, it's all good. Yeah, like just be honest, treat her well, and everything is gonna be fine. And but doesn't mean it wasn't fucking brutal. Yeah. Doesn't mean I wasn't crying
so
in my pillow.
Can guy and girl be friends without? Because I swear to God, because guys are like, I want to fuck this girl. Like there's no guy that's like, I just think she'd be a great friend. It just doesn't. You don't see a girl and you're like, man, I just really want to get to know her. I swear. Listen,
I'm thinking about like
that comes after. You know what I'm saying?
I'm thinking about Vailana's guy friends, and most of her guy friends are kind of my guy friends too. And there's like enough respect there that I know that like, and there's also like, yeah, of course you want to fuck. She's beautiful. She's a dime.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So like, but I don't hold that against them. And I also trust them not to be sneaky.
Yeah. But that's because they're also your friends.
Yeah.
That's the difference, right? Like that's how it works. Like if they're really your boys, like, then okay, there's a different, like if Jacob's with my, my girl or whatever, it's like, I know that that's my guy, and he's not like being weird if they go out. It's like I know that, Like for the most part, if it's really
Uh-huh.
my boy. But when it's some random guy that like you don't have any affiliation with, he's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're just hanging out. He's my friend. It's like that dude wants to fuck that girl, dude.
And I think a lot of times you're right. And I think for me, I learned enough through this journey that I can trust when that's not the case, and I can see when that is the case. And so sometimes it'll feel perfectly clean. It'll be like, no, that's clean. Because even with Whitney, she had guy friends, but I knew that there was nothing there.
Yeah.
I was like, because I could tell the fucking difference, and I trusted her to be honest. So I knew that there was nothing there. And sometimes there was something there, and I'd be like, yo, that guy is like, he's scheming. And she'd be like, no. And then eventually it would come out.
Right.
You know, but so it can work, you know, and it can just be one of those things. But obviously if you're with a gorgeous girl, men are men, there's going to be an impulse. So they have to have an ability to self-regulate that to a certain degree, or some certain kind of honor that would prevent them from engaging in that.
Yeah.
But sometimes girls, you know, like women have funny taste. You know, like Vi, like for example, like Vailana, no matter how much I wanted her to be into me, like just wasn't fucking into me.
When you first met her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like so into her. I was so into her. And she just like wasn't fucking into it. So I trust Vi because she was so devoted. She's so devoted to her partnership that she just wouldn't look at somebody else. And that's just her character.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I have with Vi, I have like the supreme amount of trust. With Whitney, she was interested in a lot more different types of guys. So I had to be very more fine tuned with that.
Yeah. Aware of that.
Be really aware. But it's an interesting world, because ultimately bottom line is life itself is organized around the desire to fuck.
Yeah.
Like that's life.
And love. That and love. Those two things.
Yeah, union.
Yeah.
Like union, you know, it's like, how do you merge? And one of the ways you merge is through sexuality. Physically. And there's also a big part of the journey that I've been on is understanding like the layers of sexuality. There's a superficial layer, which is attraction and lust and pleasure and the sensation of things. But there's a lot more depth that can be involved in there. And so exploring like, okay, how far can you take sexuality to cultivate the subtle energies of union where two become one and a new energy emerges? That's where like the magic is. No, sometimes without.
Okay.
But you can use both, combining like breath and intention and these different, you know, old ancient tantric practices, sex magic practices. I mean, people have been using sex as a technology for consciousness for thousands of years. And so now that's one thing that Vailana and I are starting to explore is like, how do we use this as a technology to get us closer to God?
Closer to source.
Closer to source. Yeah.
So what are those things though? Like different types of, are you talking about like different positions and shit? Like
no. I mean, those are all fun or whatever, but you can really, what this is.
You talking about like setting your intention before you go into something? Like, is that kind of stuff?
So the map that I'm working with is, it's a whole, I call it the Rainbow Sutras, and it's many different types of energy that I've given colors to.
Okay.
So some of them are very pure energies, like the White Sutra, for example, involves like eye gazing, breath work.
Oh,
and
shit.
like in ways in which you're just no sex, just like looking, like until your eyes get soft and the vision becomes fuzzy, and you start to see things, and you're breathing together, and you start to create this white energy that goes between you.
Wow.
So that's on one end. And then on the other end, you know, then there's all kinds of other different energies, yellow and green and blue and red and purple and black being the intensity of the energy of power exchange sexuality. Again, like BDSM things, submission and domination, where one person who's in the dominant role gets to feel what it's like to have absolute power over another being and to trust themselves in that power. And the other person gets to feel what it feels like to be in absolute surrender, to be in absolute trust, to surrender their will to another person. And then that energy is incredibly strong. And it's very sexual. It is.
Yeah.
But done very intentionally, not just like we're going to get kinky, but like we're going to actually use this as a technology to understand what it's like to have godlike power over another person and to trust yourself with that godlike power, and what it's like to surrender entirely, like you're surrendering to
So
the
when you're
divine.
saying this, like using it in a specific manner, do you mean because the intentions of which when you go into it, that's how you're getting that out of it?
Yeah, and there's
Because obviously it's still sex, it's still physical.
Yep. And some of this is happening naturally. We're just not aware of it. But when you become aware of it and you add the writing, the poetry, the intention, the visualization, the build up, the ritual to it, it just gets stronger. It magnifies. And that's what we've been like playing with, is like, how do we magnify this energy that already exists?
This is like everything, by the way, which is like your subconscious. You're doing things all the time. You're thinking of things. Being more aware of those things is whether this is sexually activated or not. But we're still doing this.
So a lot of times, so the Red Sutra is very like visceral, carnal sexuality. Like imagine that moment where you just want to tear each other's clothes off and devour each other, and it's so
One
fucking
of my favorite
passionate.
moments.
Yeah, of course.
Amazing.
So that would be that's really the Red Sutra, but it's happening and we're feeling it. And that energy, if you wanted to give it a color, I gave it the color red. It's like red energy is moving between you guys.
Yeah.
And it's happening automatically. But if you go in knowing that, all right, we're moving into the Red Sutra, which is going to be the most carnal, passionate, sexual experience that we're going to have. And we're going to intentionally feel this red energy build between us.
And this is
we're
the
gonna
moment where
magnify it.
you want to pull them close. You want to take.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like full devouring of each other. It doesn't matter which position. Them on top, you on top, behind, whatever. Like,
Right.
You just want to snarl, and just
I love that feeling.
Yes.
That's the best.
All right. So the energy is there.
Yeah.
But then you add the consciousness and the awareness of the energy, and then it just becomes stronger. And then you can visualize it as red energy. And
You
then
don't think
can build
sometimes
it.
thinking about it though takes you out of it?
If you think about yourself like you're watching yourself do it, it'll take yourself out of it.
Okay.
But if you're in it and you're just seeing and feeling the energy and becoming aware of it, it won't. It's just presence. It's really just like, it is the opposite of thinking. It's being very present, but present under the construct in which you're feeling an energy that you're looking for.
Yeah. I find this shit so interesting.
It is.
I love it, man.
Life is so much more complex and interesting when you go a little layer deeper.
Yeah, when you try to be more aware of it.
When you try,
Straight up.
it's the game is awareness. Like
Yeah.
the more aware you are, and all of these energies are energies we've felt. I mean, the green sutra, for example, is this energy of union that you can feel with nature, where you just feel like you're getting, like the ocean is making love to you, and the sun is making love to you, and like the wild is making, and the smells of honeysuckle or flowers. It's like you become aware of the energy that you're feeling from the earth.
How do you teach yourself to surrender to that so that you can feel it? Like, how do you become, because I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the people listening, we could understand it, but how would I go and practice that? Like if I was like, out in the ocean right now, how would I be like, instead of me just going and standing in the ocean being like, I'm wet, the water's cold.
Right. So imagine the earth as a woman. Imagine that we call her Mother Earth, right?
Yeah.
It's like, imagine the earth as a woman. And I guess even if you're a woman, I guess it's a lesbian affair. Whatever. But you imagine the earth as a female lover. And so as the waves caress you, it's like a lover caressing your body. And you imagine like feeling like she's caressing you. And the sun is like feeling like she's giving you a hug. And the smells are like this. I mean, I love the smell of a pussy or an armpit or of something of a beautiful woman, but like you imagine the flower of a rose, smell of that, and you're like, oh wow, you are a beautiful woman, and you just feel that same feeling to earth, and you do that intentionally, and then you allow that to build until it's like, wow, I'm being made love to by our planet.
It's just in a different way.
Yeah.
It's not like,
it's just a different way. Yeah. But it's, and so you cultivate that. Like practice makes the master. Whatever we're talking about, practice makes the master, whether it's self-love, whether it's gratitude, whether it's tantra, whether it's any of these things. Like the more you practice it with intention, the more you'll feel it. We feel love for ourselves. We feel gratitude, but if we practice it, we get better at it and it becomes more natural. We feel like the earth is a lover, but we're not aware of it, so we don't practice it. But if you practice
awareness
it,
and consciousness.
Yep, that's it.
So with Vailana, you met her the 2016, and then you guys got serious after this whole
Right after the
polyamorous-
darkness.
After the darkness, and that was at the end of the polyamorous thing.
Yeah, everything was coming to a close. And there was one final, in the darkness, there was one final kind of chapter. I had to heal a lot of my wounds, and I had to recognize that there was one final thing that I had to offer to Whitney, and that was I'd always loved her for what I wanted her to be, not for exactly who she was.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
That's like the most common thing, man.
I know. And so, and it broke my heart. It came to me in a vision, and she came to me in a vision in day 4, day 5. And I saw her, and I always wanted Whitney to be, as you know, on the spiritual path with me. And she was, but just not to the same degree that I was.
Yeah.
It wasn't as interesting to her, the spiritual path. It was interesting to her, but not the same way that I wanted it to be.
Right.
And I wanted her to reach her spiritual potential. So I saw her in this vision, and she had all of these, like this crown of feathers, and she was like in her full spiritual garb and like attire, and she was like this spiritual being. And then she looks at her feathers and looks around, and she looks at me and she goes, "Am I doing it right?
Oh my God.
Am I doing it right?"
It's funny how you created that.
And I was like, "Fuck, babe. Like, you're always doing it right. Like, I'm so sorry, you know?" And I had that moment of like, God damn it. I've been loving you. I've been loving what I wanted you to be instead of just loving you as you are. This wild firecracker, you know, whiskey drinking, table twerking, you know, beautiful comment of a being. And I just didn't fully love you exactly as you were. And so I got out of that darkness, and I just wanted to, you know, it was only for like a month, but I wanted to do my best. And I don't know if I succeeded or failed in that, but I wanted to do my best to love her exactly as she was, and just show her like, you know what, you're fucking perfect. Like, I'm so sorry for all of the ways that I judged any aspect of you and loved some other version of you. Like, I love you exactly as you are.
Why do you think it's so common for people to, like, in relationships in general, this is a lot, like why a lot really don't work out, is because we have a perception of someone, or how we, like you said, how you're loving her, how you wanted her to be.
Yeah.
Or how, and you're like trying to like look for her to be this, almost like this way for you, when it's not really exactly the way for her. Why do you think it's so common for that to be our reality? Like, cause I have so many situations I could think of where I'm like, I looked at, like you said, you looked at all, I would look at all like I had an 8-year relationship, and I would look at all the things that, like were really good in that relationship. And I would look over all the things that were really, really bad, no matter how many things there were. And I was so focused on like, but in these moments, it was so good, and it was like this, and I felt so deep and connected. And then all the other things, it was like, oh, if I had just said this, or if I had just done that, then like I won't, you know, it'll be better next time. And it always had this feeling of never enough.
Yeah.
And it was because it was like me wanting to love this person, like how I wanted them to be. And I only wanted to focus on those good moments and never look at the things that were also actually happening. Why do you think it's so common for people to do that with like their partners, and not even just partners, but also things they're going after in their life?
Because we do it with ourselves. We do it with ourselves. We love ourselves conditionally. We love ourselves for the person we want to be, for that thing we're striving for the thing we achieve. And we love ourselves in brief moments. We love ourselves based on the idea of what we're striving for, not the actuality of who we are and what we are moment to moment. And so, of course, if we love ourselves that way, we're going to love our partners that way.
Yeah.
You know, like as within, so without. And I think this is the fundamental lesson, is that, of course, I loved Whitney that way because I love myself that way.
Yeah.
I loved myself when I was more in my spiritual power, and when I was more successful, and when I had a bigger impact on the world. And I only hardly loved myself then. So I think that's the trap. And I think the way to learn is, you can learn with a partner, but it's really important to learn with yourself. So
how do you learn then, when, like, you know, of your current situation, like, how do you know that, okay, this is the right way? Like, how do you know now this is the right way? Is it still an everyday habitual thing to make it the right way? Or is it like, did you just feel like, oh man, this is just different? Like, how do you Draw that line.
It's practice. It's practice. Like I wish, man, I mean, I do have all of these profound experiences, even like the darkness.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say like, after that, everything was different. No, it's just a little bit different. And I have a little bit more awareness and I have to put it into practice. I mean, last night even I write poetry and I wrote a poem about it. And it was really like just recognizing that I can make the choice to love her absolutely fully and completely and be absolutely overwhelmed by that love that I have for her and just make that choice. Like make the choice.
So it's interesting to me though, you say this, if you knew that the way that you knew it now, right now today, when you met Whitney, could it have been the same with her?
That's a very interesting choice. And that's a very interesting thing to say. Now, I think that yes, I could have. And yes, that could have transformed that relationship. And I wish I would have had that knowledge.
But that's not how life works. Yeah.
However, I also think that even though you can do that with any partner, and you should, there's certain people who are meant to be with you for different stages of your life. And Vailana is the person that's meant to be with me for the rest of my life. Whitney was perfect for the stage that we're in.
How are you like sure of that?
I would have never believed that I could be sure. I was one who was like, I proposed to people twice. Actually, the other girl that you met is my best friend now, Caitlin. I had proposed to her.
The one who came in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd proposed to her. We were together for 6 years. I proposed to Whitney.
That other girl.
Yeah.
The one who was in here.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yo, what the fuck?
Yeah, she's my best friend.
Okay.
And she was also best friends with Whitney.
There's not like a weird, it's like.
It's so many years ago. I mean, it was like 12 years. And we never, even in my polyamory with Whitney, like we never had any kind of sexual thing. So it's been 12 years since that happened. So it's pretty comfy now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but I was never sure. Like I proposed, but after every time I proposed, I was like, what did I just do?
Damn.
What did I just do? Because I wasn't sure. But when I proposed to Vailana, I was like, how quick can we get married? Oh, Elvis is still off doing marriage. Yeah, fuck yeah. We got married by Elvis in 30 minutes. I was like, how fast can we do this? Because I've never been more sure of anything in my life.
Like how though? Is it just because that's how much you learn up to that point? Your
I think
is
enough self-awareness and enough trust in, I knew Vailana for long enough. I trusted that she would be willing to go into the deep that was necessary to journey with me wherever I was going. So she, I think because my own spiritual life and my plant medicine path and all of these things are so important to me, I needed someone who was equally passionate about all that. And I know that if somebody's willing to go with me into the deep, deep, deep waters, that we'll be fine. Yeah. Like we'll be able to figure it out together, because as long as there's no fear into going into the hardest rituals and all the deep, deep waters together, we're gonna be fine.
Yeah. Damn, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah. It's special. It's special to be certain. It is really special to be sure. And it's rare. I can't even say that, whoever you are, somebody out there, you'll just be sure. When you know. I think it's a bunch of bullshit still. Yeah. It happened for me. Yeah. And it can happen, but I think it happened as a result of 40, at that point, 21 years of personal growth.
Yeah. This is the same thing. I asked you a question earlier about like knowing what direction to go in your life. This is the same concept that when you said that, it resonated with me. When I started all this, there was no examples, like just in social media, it didn't exist. I was just doing things that I love and doing things that I enjoyed. Yep. And I found myself in a position now that like, I would have never been like, oh, I'm going to go there and do that then, because it wasn't a thing that was happening when I started. And I was just doing the things that I loved. And I got there in a way that was like, oh, it's just through all these things that I really enjoyed and really loved, and I learned and I got better. And like, I look at my life and I'd look back to when I was 6 years old and my father took his life, and all that time I talked about like, thinking about when I was 12 and all these moments and all these things, like that's what led to that moment when I was 26 years old and I had spent fucking, I don't know, was it 5 years at the time on social media, just doing things that I was genuinely passionate about and cared about. I was like, yo, this is really who I am and what I love. And then I got on YouTube and I started to share like my more of my voice and speaking about my journey and what I've been through and who I am and what makes me sad and what makes me happy and relating that to all the things in my life. And then when I was 26 years old, I would get so much feedback from in the last like 4 years leading up to that I was like, oh shit, this is what I'm here to do. This is what my purpose is. This is what makes me feel fulfilled, is sharing and giving back to basically a version of myself that I felt like I needed that. Like, a younger version of myself, looking for a father figure that I never had.
Right.
So I find this so interesting because obviously this is in a relationship setting, but I'm talking about now this is in my like life path setting and like my business setting. Like I didn't know like that was ever going to come through that darkness in my childhood. Shit. But like the beautiful thing is, and I'm saying this to the people listening, there is power in like just the unknown and like your journey in trying to figure it out is part of you. I know it sounds silly, but like literally figuring it out is just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's all I was doing. I wasn't like, oh, there's a guy on social media and I'm going to do that because it didn't exist. I was just doing things that I genuinely cared about and I was giving back how I like felt like I needed. And then I got to a position where people are like, yo, I love the things that you're doing. I didn't kill myself because I listened to the story about your father and where you're at in your life. You motivated me, or I lost my father and you showed me that I could have this power to do these things because you did it. And it's so interesting how this is how humans, like we don't know, and you're not supposed to always know. It's like until you know.
Yeah.
And you went through all those other experiences until you're like, oh, okay, now this is it. And now you're like, oh, this is for sure. Mm-hmm. And I just find it so crazy. Like, and to the people listening, there's power in it, and it's okay to not know, to not be like, this is exactly the steps I need to take, because you're not gonna know that.
Yeah.
It's always hindsight. You look back and you're like, oh fuck, wait, this all makes sense now.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that. I just thought it was super interesting because like with the relationship thing, and I'm assuming actually I don't know the business thing. It sounded like you got some divine intervention from ayahuasca and you're like, wait, I have all the answers, which is, dude, I want to do it so bad.
I had an idea and ayahuasca clarified it, but still it was an idea.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it could fill in all the details. I still had to make a bunch of different fucking choices.
Right.
It didn't solve all the problems, but you're really absolutely right in what you're saying. And I sometimes think about this phenomenon. So a lot of us have seen the movie Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman. And in that movie, he has what's called savant syndrome. And savant syndrome is a real thing. And certain people have it to different degrees. And that's where they can calculate things that are almost impossible for us to imagine. So in that movie, they give an example of a bunch of toothpicks dropping or something like that. I forget what it was. Do you know what it was, Ryan, in that movie? It was toothpicks. All right, a bunch of toothpicks drop, and he knows exactly how many toothpicks dropped. Well, how the fuck do you know that? You couldn't see that. You couldn't, but he knew that. And what I think it reveals is not that they have superpowers, but they have access to a part of our subconscious, a part of our mind that knows way more than we think we know. Like our conscious mind is like the tip of an iceberg, and our whole mind is like the entire iceberg that's submerged underwater. And we're not aware of what that is that we know. So I think actually we know way more than we know, and we have to just trust that. We have to trust that we're actually making decisions that make sense, even though we don't know that they make sense.
Yeah.
That some part of us knows something. Like some part of me knew that Vailana was the right person even before we got together, and then I became aware of it as soon as we got together. Yeah. But I always kind of knew.
It's almost like surrendering to that too. I was listening to one of your podcasts that you did with Joe Rogan. He was talking about, you were asking him about I think this was pretty early on, and he was explaining how, like, he said the podcast chose him. Mm-hmm. And he felt like it got to a point where it was so like almost like autopilot. He'd show up and it was just like it would just download straight. It was just easy. It was like he didn't have to think about it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that in a lot of the content that I made over the years. Like I've gone through something, and I've gone through things in my life for sure, like every other person. But for some reason, I always had a good way to just like share it. I don't know, almost in a way that I wish it was shared to me.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if it's like, because I never tried to be that. I never tried to figure that out. I never tried to be like, oh, this makes sense, and let me learn how to speak about these things. I just was like, this is this is literally just me.
The secret, one of the secrets to On It, that people are like, how did you do it? Well, I just made shit that I wanted. Like everybody tries to imagine, like, what does the world want? What does the market want? What do people want? Don't worry about that. What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want?
This is a very common thing with social media now.
Like
constant comparison.
Yeah. Trust that if you provide what a younger version of you want or what the current version of you want, that there's going to be a lot of people who are just like you
want the same
and
thing.
just like what you used to be, who are going to want the same thing. And that's the only thing that you'll know for sure. Like it fucking boggles my mind. And some people can do it. Some people are really clever and successful, and they'll be like ahead of a fitness company, but they don't fucking work out. Or
Yo,
they'll be
that shit's gnarly, dude. It doesn't make sense.
It's crazy, right?
It makes zero sense.
They'll make like fucking pre-workouts, but
Not
they'll be
work out
like,
a
"You
day."
want to work out?" And they're like, "Nah, I don't work out." I'm like, "What the fuck? What do you?"
I don't like that.
I don't either.
like
I
that,
don't.
man.
But it works sometimes. But that's not the game I want to play, and I don't think that works as much anymore. I think that game has expired because there's enough people who are authentically doing these things that they're truly passionate about. That game has run its course.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Like, that's so relevant in the social media space nowadays in a lot of industries, but also specifically in the fitness industry. There's everyone does the same thing now. And it's like, I always get asked this, people are like, oh, but I want to succeed. How do I do it? It's like, the same thing we're talking about. I say the same thing every time. It's like, be your fucking self. Cause like, there's no competition there. And if you're constantly looking at what someone else is doing to try to figure out what you're going to do next, and you're constantly a step behind, and you're constantly looking for like a different source other than what's really genuine and what really matters to you. Yeah. And it's like, at some point, maybe you like the first 10 ideas that the person you were following, oh, he did that, so I'm gonna do that. He does that, so I'm gonna do that. But then at some point, like it's not genuine. You're not really gonna be happy in the things that you're doing. Like,
and also the game has changed. Like, if you had a nice ass and you were a girl on Instagram 10 years ago, you were famous.
Yeah. Oh,
you were famous. I see fucking profiles of girls. Sometimes I'll be cruising around. They still show up in my feed a lot.
Yeah, of course.
and I'll click it and I'll be like, God damn.
Yeah.
She is beautiful. And I'll look, 5,500 followers. And I'm like, that was not the reality fucking 7 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's just harder as a platform.
It's harder as a platform.
Yeah.
That game has expired.
Yeah.
There's
so many.
There's so fucking many.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, if you're trying to follow, you're too late.
Yeah.
You're too late if you're trying to follow. Like,
that's a fact.
The game is up. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people face is they're like, oh, I see this other person doing this thing. Yeah, it's too late. They did it.
And it's also like, why would you want that to be your play? Is like, he did it, I'm gonna do it. Because it's just like, do you really want that?
Yeah.
Or is it? Because that's the thing too, that people, I don't think they realize it until like it's too late. If your intention is just to do something because you think you're gonna get some effect from it that's like monetary, then it's like you're already approaching that the wrong way. That someone and those people that you're trying to find some sort of monetary gain from, they're gonna feel that and be like, this is disgenuine. Exactly. And they're gonna be like, I'm gonna go over there to that person that I feel like actually gives a fuck about what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's so weird. Like, there is no competition with yourself. It's just your own competition with yourself. Be yourself, share what matters to you, share what hurts you, share what makes you happy, and continue on and try to like connect with people who are aligning with that. It's
the only thing that you can do better than everybody else in the world is be you.
Yeah.
You have no competition.
Yeah.
You can be yourself better than anyone in the world.
And it can always work. Yeah. It can always work. Because that's the thing. Like, and I'll even tell people, I'll have these conversations about like the business side of it. It's like, if you can get 1,000 people to believe in you and care about what you care about and like be engaged with what you're giving them and taking the content that is like helping them, like, and let's say you sell a product, like if you can get 1,000 people to buy a product for like, like a year, a few years, like you could be a millionaire. Right? Yeah. People look at it like, I just need all the followers. I need all this because that guy has it. I need the car. I need all these things. And it's like, you're just going at it the wrong way. It's like, create real connections with real people and like, you'll be unstoppable.
Connections are so valuable. And again, connections go back to being an interesting motherfucker.
Yeah.
Be the person that someone meets and they're like, I want to fucking hang with that person.
Yeah.
Like, and then people, that's one thing that'll never change. People want to do stuff with people they like.
Yeah. And
you can't fake it. If you're trying too hard or people will see through that shit, and it won't work. Like, just be a bad motherfucker. be a bad motherfucker, and other bad motherfuckers will want to be around you.
This makes me ask a question. Do you think everyone can be that way?
I think so.
Do you think everyone has that?
I think so, but it's not easy. It requires going into the deep. It requires doing those things that you're fucking scared of over and over again. Like for you've done an exceptional job at being authentically yourself and exploring things and becoming a master at being fucking Bradley.
Yeah.
Like you've crushed it at that. But there's another level waiting for you on the other side of the darkness retreat, on the other side of an ayahuasca retreat. There's another level of what you can be. And I see it in your eyes and I feel it in your heart. Like that's a part of your path, because that's going to reveal another layer of who you are, of who Bradley really is. That's going to stack on top of this Bradley that you've created, who's a fucking bad motherfucker already. And it's going to be like, oh shit. And so many people are doing this, and sometimes they're keeping it quiet. I mean, I know a lot of people like Super Bowl champs and, Stanley Cup champions that I've sat in ayahuasca circles with, and I've done these things, who are doing it quietly, but they still don't talk about it. But a lot of these people that we see are not only being incredible at what they do, but they're also quietly and sometimes publicly going into the deep and revealing that next layer. And I think that's the case for all of us.
Yeah, I've been there's, it's now like repetitive in my life over the last year, like constantly being called to experience this.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
I've been so afraid to do it, because I know I deal with such like severe anxiety in moments in my life that I'm like, I could just imagine me, and maybe it's what I need, is to go knowingly that it probably is gonna happen, let it happen, and go through it.
The only way out is through.
Yeah.
The only way out is through. You have to confront it, and you have to, it's a different way. You don't fight it. You surrender to it, and you let it completely overwhelm you until you're like, I'm okay with this. I accept it. And then it dissipates.
Yeah. God damn. I need to do it, man. Fuck. I'm going to do it. I'm serious.
Yeah. Well, when you're ready to do it, let me know, because
Yeah.
I got all the connects. I got all the hookups. So
that'll be dope, man. I think that's it for today.
All right.
Yeah. I feel amazing. Do you have any questions for me?
Man, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you going. We covered all the different things. And I look forward to the friendship. That's one of the beautiful things that we talked earlier. Like, podcasts are amazing, because no matter what we did, whether we had lunch or whether we had drinks or no matter what we did, we would never have gotten to know each other like we just got to know each other over the past 2 hours. Yeah. And like, I look at you now and will look at you now for the rest of my life and be like, yeah, Bradley's my brother.
I appreciate it, man. And before this moment too, I want you to know that I was a fan. Big fan. I'm still a fan.
I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that, brother.
Like, I'm not kidding. I came into this being like, yo, I'm kind of nervous, and I'm never nervous. Never, ever nervous to talk to anyone, man. Never. There's not a single person. But like, I like your content. I enjoy what you do. I enjoy the energy you put out there. I enjoy the person that you are and the things that you say, and the fact that you're not afraid to confront certain topics. And it's just beautiful, man. And I think we need more people like that in this world. 100%. So I appreciate you coming on my podcast, but also I appreciate you letting me use this entire setup that I did not pay for. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome.
It means a lot to me, and I'm fucking proud of you and all your success, and you deserve every bit of it, and
thank you.
All the more that's going to come.
Likewise, my friend.
So,
likewise.
Fuck yeah.
Much love, everybody.
Yeah, subscribe to the channel, turn the post notifications on, all that good stuff. Drop a comment. If you're on iTunes, leave a dope review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. All that good stuff. I love you guys. I'm out of here. Thank you, man. Yeah.
Yep.
Fuck, that was dope. Let's go.
That was a good fucking.
You're fucking dope, man.
That was a really good show.
Damn. That was sick. Thank you for the help.
No, of course, brother.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
fuck yeah.
My pleasure.
Just saw like 2 hours.
That was amazing, man. That
Well,
was
I mean,
fucking,
minus you going to the bathroom.
I had to pee so bad. It was like, oh man.
Yeah, we do
It was-
marathons.
I'm not kidding. When you were talking about like resisting it and all that stuff, I was like, holy shit, he's speaking about me having to pee right now. This is the moment. I was like,
This is the fucking moment.
dude, I was so locked into, I was about to just piss my pants. That'd have been, imagine peeing my pants on the podcast.
That'd have been sick.
epic.
Should've done
I
that.
just didn't want to fuck the couch thing up, 'cause I knew it was gonna be a lot of pee, man.
You're like, I gotta listen to my soul right now, bro.
I gotta let it out. Yeah, man, you're crushing it.
Yeah, man. Things are all lining up, and it's interesting. I still feel like I'm just getting started.
What you've done with On It in 10 years is
like really impressive.
It's also just not necessary too. I heard it and I was like, oh fuck, that's crazy.
It's crazy to be rich.
It's fucking,
It's crazy.
it's such a weird thing. But it's dope that you're rich though, and you like actually like are doing so much good with it.
Yeah.
Like that's the best
And
part.
I got rich doing good.
Yeah,
My
it's
time
amazing.
was helping people, like fucking inspiring them and giving them tools, and like that's beautiful. I'm so proud of the, not that I made money, but that every step of the way, like
How you made the money.
I treated people really well, and like they felt good in their bodies and they were inspired, and the fact that I got to do it that way is like it's
all life's
the
about.
ultimate blessing of blessings. But it still fucking blows my mind. You know what blows my mind? This is the first time. This is Louis the 13th cognac.
Yeah.
I can buy this and drink it, and it's delicious.
It's
And it doesn't matter.
yeah, it's like
You know?
chill. You're just like I can just do this.
Yeah.